Well, I'm glad to be here with some of our adult education and spirituality group leaders. I thought you'd be interested in meeting them and finding out a little bit about their groups. So I wanted to introduce them to you. We'll start with Mary Myhouse. Mary leads a group called, what's your group called, Mary?
Called You've Got a Friend.
Okay, that's great. Tell us about it and why you wanted to do it.
Well, we had decided in our spirit and practice groups to move toward a Eliot Connects theme, because we knew that people during the pandemic might be feeling a little isolated or disconnected perhaps from their church group, their church friends, their church family. And so my notion was to have a group that just helped people check in and know that they have friends at church that are still there. They're not going anywhere, and we're here to connect with one another and support one another.
That's great. What have you noticed about it that you think has been maybe surprising or just something you've appreciated about the group?
Well, it is structured somewhat. We don't just sit around and chit chat. We do a check-in, but I pick a topic each time, and I've tried to take topics that are related to the pandemic in some way, shape, or form, and how people might be feeling during this isolated period. So we've talked about friendship. We've had the topic of hope, kindness, the power of positivity, living with intention. And I do readings or meditation on one of those topics or the topic of the week. And then we have a few discussion questions around it. And I've just really been impressed with how many people come back each time. That it's feeding a need in people's soul, that they do feel more connected to the people in the group. It's a little bit different than a covenant group because it's more discussion back and forth. And people really care about one another and check in with them about something they said the time before. So it's been a really nice connection with a group of people that wouldn't have typically gotten together before.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, what can bring people together like this? So awesome, thank you. Well, let me ask Peter. Peter, I'll ask you to unmute if you would, and tell us a little bit about your group. You started out along with this same theme, I think, with connecting people, but in sort of a different way. Can you talk about that?
I've been very involved over the last several years with Richard Rohr's, Father Richard Rohr's work. He's an incredibly progressive and thoughtful Christian, one who deliberately connects with multiple other religions. And I wanted to have a little community that shared about that and would find nurturance in that, as well as this issue of connecting during this time.
Sure.
This whole year, he does a morning meditation, and this whole year, they're all around the situation we're in. His whole center is very social justice oriented, anyhow. So we went through, we started in the first 8-week thing we did, and I led that. And then the group, I asked the group if they wanted to continue, and they did. And so we decided to change how we work. And so we're taking turns facilitating. And for this next period, we're using, he has a series called Oneing. And they're little pamphlets, as you can see.
Oh, yeah.
And this is on order, disorder, reorder.
Oh, very psalmist, it sounds like to me.
Yeah. And actually, one of the little things he does in the early pages is he cites things from lots of different religions and kinds of groups of thinking, all of which sort of parallel this idea of order, disorder, and reorder. So it's very, I think each person in this group brings, a person's a Buddhist. It's very spiritual and very personal.
Yeah, I think it's that personal connection, I think, that is, it's hard to find that, in a really good, safe, accepting sort of atmosphere. It sounds that you took the next question I was going to ask you was, do you have to be a Christian to take the class? And
Nope.
I'm anticipating no.
Like, yeah.
So great, that's great. So let me ask Jeannie now. Jeannie Kleckner. I'm sorry, I'm always going to say your name wrong, just always and forever. She's also one of our Eliot Connects leaders, and you did a meditation group, I know, for a while, and then you wanted to switch up and do and follow a particular book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I feel like the whole virus situation, the pandemic, and the safer at home has lasted so much longer than we maybe epidemiologists expected this would be the course, but for most of us, it's lasted longer than we ever imagined. So I thought I would bump up. I was inspired by Peter having a group and another Eliot Connects facilitator, Tony Saunders, having weekly groups. And I thought, well, I could do that. I could bump up from the monthly meditation. So that was partly my motivation, was the desire to for service. But I chose a topic that is near and dear. I have the great pleasure and honor to have some of my employment, a portion of my employment, come from being a mindfulness teacher. And it is a great pleasure to me. I feel like it's one of the ways that I earn my keep by making the world a better place. So this past summer, I've been a mindfulness teacher for several years. And this past summer, I read a book about using mindfulness to focus on character traits and how the two dovetail. And I did two 1 hour to 1.5 hour presentations on this topic. One as a paid presenter and one for a group of mindfulness friends. And I want to go further with it personally. And I think it's very juicy and fruitful as an offering for other people. So I kind of just sort of put this together, a 7-week course. And the first week's kind of an introduction planning. And then the final week's a wrap up. Where do we go from here? And then the middle 5 weeks, we will be very deliberately, intentionally exploring each person in the class will be exploring their own signature strengths, which are your top 5.
Interesting.
So that's the backfill.
Do you have the book near you?
So here's the book that I read this past summer, Mindfulness and Character Strengths.
Oh, cool.
And it is by Ryan Niemek. And he is I think director is the word he used, of the VIA Strengths Institute. It used to be called Values and Actions, and they kept that initials but changed it. And then I spend some of my time reading books like this.
Oh, okay.
workbook for stress reduction. So I have come to have a respect and appreciation for our strengths-based approach in just daily life. So that's part of the motivation.
I think I do find that interesting. Both of those things kind of combined, because we talk about, you hear about stress a lot and everybody's feeling it, I think. And yet a lot of times it's about fixing stuff. It's about fixing or doing something that is, basically what's something that's wrong with you. And this sounds like it's coming from the opposite angle.
That's an interesting perspective. I wouldn't be drawn to think of it as an opposite direction, but not a solution oriented. Like when you identify something as a problem, you're more likely to go to a solution orientation.
Sure.
As opposed to, this is broader than that. The subtitle of the course is flourishing. And so it's going to be in January. So I kind of linked it to deliberately creating a sense of flourish in the new year. So it's not a fix it as much as a flourish.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And who doesn't need some more connected way to really let go of some stress? It sounds to me too, also. Peter, is there a book that you would recommend people pick up? Sometimes people want to, take a look online at what the book is like before they sign up for something. Can you recommend anything? Is that available also?
Yes, it's available. His center is called the Center for Contemplation and Action. So cac.org, and they have a bookstore. This is available. His book, The Universal Christ, is an amazing book. And just to clarify one little detail, our group meets twice a month. Not once, not every week.
Yeah.
So it's the second and fourth Wednesdays at 4:00.
Second and fourth Wednesdays. And
our group, got a friend, meets on the third Thursdays at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, great. And you can find those times on the Eliot website, mostly. And Jeannie, when does your class start?
It will be on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m., 7 consecutive Thursdays from January 14th to February 25th.
Oh, that's great.
Virtually.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody. Is there anything else that you were just itching to say, and I wish I'd said that when she talked to me before we go?
Well, one thing I would like to say is there are so many things available at Eliot, between virtual service and the coffee hour and the going deeper groups and the Eliot Connects groups. There's it's a wonderful thing to have so many different offerings that hopefully something will, in covenant groups, hopefully something will speak to everyone.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see people get more connected. Thank you, everybody. This was great. And I'm really glad I got introduce you, so to speak, to more people at Eliot. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.